You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts now.
I'm back. Rudrance for Black and White Sports 2. We're going to talk about two things, UCLA, and we're going to talk about the college football playoff expanding. I didn't make a video on that yet. I do want to touch on that because I want to take a look back at what the playoffs, I believe under the current format, would have looked like. There would have been some buys in there for some teams. And I'm not so much worried about that as I am, hey, let's look at 5 through 12 and see what that playoff scenario would look like. Because, frankly, I can tell you, 12 versus 5, that's a pretty intriguing game if you look back now. And you might be like, Pittsburgh versus Notre Dame? Yeah, it's intriguing for one reason and one reason only, and we'll get to that. Let's look at UCLA first because this just came out, and UCLA drew an embarrassing all-time low attendance over the weekend for the Rose Bowl. I mean, this is embarrassing. This once great historic college football program. I mean, we're talking about the university Troy Aikman came out of here. A lot of NFL players have come out of the UCLA program, obviously. They did win. I mean, they killed Bowling Green, but nobody was there. And they drew an attendance that, I mean, a lot of big-time high school football here in Texas would probably beat out. UCLA's crowd for the opener against Bowling Green was embarrassingly low. This is David Hookstead over at Outkick. The Bruins blew out the Falcons 45-17 to get the season rolling, but they didn't do it with a ton of people in the stands at the Rose Bowl. LA Times reporter Ben Botch reported the crowd of 27,143 fans was an all-time attendance low. Yeah, but that's not even the thing. The visuals were awful, and it's because a lot of those fans that paid decided not to show up. To make matters even worse, the visuals of the Rose Bowl sitting practically empty for the start of the season are downright humiliating. If you're a fan of the Bruins and it doesn't make you upset, something is wrong with you. There are big high school football games in parts of the country that draw more fans. Absolutely. I mean, look at this. I mean, that is unbelievable. Shit, that's like USFL shit right there. I mean, let's just be real. That's crazy. I can tell you right now. A bunch of their season ticket holders, I would guess, didn't decide to show up. And that's what they think, too. That's got to include, he's talking about the attendance right here, 27,143. That's got to include 20,000 season ticket holders who did not bother to show up. I mean, look at that. Wow. UCLA is bound for the Big Ten. I would think that would get this program even more fired up. You know, I mean, you're going to have some big college football games coming there. Starting in 2024, and the program better figure out how to get people interested in football again, because this is unacceptable. Yes, it's LA, and there are plenty of things to do outside of college football, but there is never a reason for the Rose Bowl to sit empty for a game, especially the home opener. Wow. It's an embarrassing look for the Bruins, and it should be concerning for Big Ten as well. The Big Ten wants programs with fired-up fan bases. Judging from the video above, do the Bruins look energized? Of course, the answer is no. And, you know, I think one of the issues right off the bat is, you know, there's always a lot to do. The weather is great out there. But this is a particularly embarrassing look with Lincoln Riley and USC being, I mean, with USC being thrust to the front of college football again. Lincoln Riley, Caleb Williams showing up, and the chief rival across, in town, I mean, you could not get two different looks and two different fan bases fired up. It's unbelievable. That's part of UCLA's problem too, is it seems they're scared to take big swings, right? So it's a bad look. It's a terrible look. Unbelievable. Let's look at this. College football expands to 12 by 2026. I hope to God this gets done sooner. I'm so fired up for this. After 14 and a half months of haggling over details and questioning, this is Breitbart, motivations, a plan to expand college football playoff from 4 to 12 was finally approved Friday to set the stage for a multi-billion-dollar tournament as soon as the 2024 season. What still needs to be determined is how quickly the 4-team model can be converted and implemented, but it will happen no later than 2026. When it does, major college football's championship tournaments will triple in size. Quote, this is a historic day for college football, said Mississippi State President Mark Keenum, the chairman of the CFP Boards of Manager, that pressed ahead after a process that just started in 2021 with an ambitious plan, was derailed for months, and it goes on to talk about just total and complete political bullshit, and I'm talking political as far as college football goes. In a unanimous vote, 11 university leaders who make up the board approved the original 12-team proposal that calls for the 6th highest-ranked conference champions and 6 at-large picks as determined by the selection committee to make the playoff. The top 4 seeds would be conference champions and receive byes into the second round. First-round games would be played on campuses and the rest at bowl sites. A 12-team, 11-game postseason to crown a champion would be worth as much as $2 billion in media rights to the conferences that play major college football starting in 2026. Quote, so our plans to begin with a 12-team format for sure beginning in 2026 football season. However, we have asked our conference commissioners on management committees to explore the possibility of us beginning the 12-team playoff format before 2026, either in 24 or 25. If the new format can be implemented before the current 12-year contract with ESPN expires in 2025, the conferences would make an additional $450 million in the final 2 years. The current deal pays about $470 million per year. You can almost bet they're going to figure out how to pull this off. They are. That's a lot of money, and I can't see them leaving that on the table. Now, let's just take a glance. This was the playoff committee's picks, the top 12 teams last year. Okay, this is December 5th, and are you kidding me? Where'd that go? Okay, selection committee rankings. Okay, so this was the top 12 teams. Look, at a glance, I can't tell you exactly who won their conferences, right? Alabama was one. I know Michigan won the Big Ten. I know Cincinnati won their conference. I don't know if it was Alabama or Georgia that won the SEC. I don't really care at this point. This is just simply an illustration because I want to glance at what might have been the games. Because I know a lot of people are out there like 4 teams is enough. Who wants to see blah, blah, blah play, right? And I got to be honest with you. I actually believe this is eventually going to expand to 16. I do, because if you look at 13 through 16, I mean, you could have gotten Oregon and Oklahoma into the playoff. All right, so eventually that's going to be a thing too. Why? More money, plain and simple. Now, let's look at some matchups real fast, because I think this is, we would have had Pittsburgh potentially in a 12-5. I think that's how the format's going to go. It would be a 12-5, 11-6, 10-7, I assume, and then 9-8. I would guess that's how they'll do it. Pittsburgh against Notre Dame, you're like 11-1 versus 11-2. How's that going to be good? Well, just for a frame of reference, that would have been Kenny Pickett, the first college quarterback selected in this year's NFL draft, and a guy that looks like he may be the real deal. God, he reminds me, it's the same scenario as Mac Jones. He come out, oh my God, he's got all the experience, blah, 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 but he's not flashy enough, so all these teams pass on him, and now he looks like he's going to be a real, probably good professional NFL quarterback. Boy, a lot of teams are out thinking the room on quarterbacks now. That's neither here nor there. Pittsburgh versus Notre Dame, okay? So you would have had Kenny Pickett, the best quarterback to go out in the NFL draft, against Notre Dame. I'm sorry, I would want to see that. Okay, that immediately makes that playoff game totally watchable. I mean, totally watchable, right? You would have had Utah versus Ohio State. Who knows how that would have went? Michigan State versus Baylor. And then a very sort of random, interesting Oklahoma State versus Mississippi. So, I'm just putting that out there. That would have been your matchups for that first week. And I'm sorry, Pittsburgh versus Notre Dame with Kenny Pickett starting for Pittsburgh. Shit, you can count me in on that. I would have loved to have seen that game, seeing how Kenny Pickett would have fared. Now, the one thing you got to remember in this is, are people going to give more money on NIL in order to make sure these great college football players are willing to play extra games if they're going to the NFL? That's going to end up being a thing. You're going to end up seeing, we'll just use Kenny Pickett as a reference, okay, even though there was bigger college football players. I don't know if I want to play the playoffs because I could risk injury. I think Kenny would have played, but you get the point. Oh, NIL, here comes the local Cadillac dealership in. We'll give you $1.5 million to play the last 4 games. You're going to start seeing things like that now, too. So NIL is going to add yet another layer to this college football playoff scenario. And let me look at the final rankings because of that UCLA story. No, UCLA would not have made it, right? And I'm not a UCLA fan or anything, but I thought it was notable to look at a once historic program that has fallen so far from a perspective of the fans. And I know they're playing Bowling Green, but look, in theory, they should win that game, and they did. So you would have thought a crowd would have come out to support the team, and they didn't show. They didn't show. It's a terrible look. It's a terrible look for UCLA. And what's even worse, can you imagine some of these high-profile Big Ten teams coming in? Ohio State, Michigan comes in, and you got 9,000 fans, 8,000 fans in the stadium. And look, I know it said 27,000, but look, 20,000 didn't show. Can you imagine them showing up and 8,000 UCLA fans are there and another 30,000 Michigan fans? Or 30,000 Ohio State fans? God, that's going to be embarrassing. That is going to be so embarrassing. And you're going to have a bunch of middle-of-the-road fans that are fans of neither that just wants to see Ohio State or Michigan play college football. And you got to remember, too, there's a lot of transplants, right, from Michigan and Ohio that are in L.A. right now. I mean, look, L.A.'s made up of a lot of transplants. Now, I don't know how many of those bailed and went to Ron DeSantis' Florida or Greg Abbott's Texas because Gavin Newsom is a total punk. Yeah. Tell me what you think, Black and White Sports 2 fans. I wanted to talk some college football this morning. Yeah. 2 stories. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.